What is going on, my friends? Thank you for coming back for part 2. If you're here for the first time, there is a part 1. We are customizing a Triumph Scrambler seat for the world famous Craig Ripley from Off the Slab channels on YouTube and offtheslab.com. He is a motorcycle adventurist, and he has a really cool YouTube channel that you guys should check out. And we are doing a seat for him. In this part 2, we're going to wrap it up. Our part 1 took a little bit longer because I wanted to go into great detail of every step of everything we do so you could see what's involved. We're doing the same thing here on this video, and we are going to end it with Craig coming down and picking up his seat and seeing how he likes it. And then you'll have to watch his channel to see him actually ride it and test it. And we hope he really likes it, because it'd be embarrassing if he didn't. We're not set up for videos yet, so we are in an awkward spot here. I have this makeshift area set up where we're doing Craig's seat. What I did, I just rough cut the foam, took out this here, which exposes the bottom of the seat pan. I forgot on the Scramblers, they have a bump stop that goes in the bottom. And when these are in, that little rubber piece actually sticks right up and hits you right in the cheekbone. So we have to take this off, and we're going to bond this on in a different manner and then add the gel. So with the gel here, what we're doing for him is, you can see we cut it out, and this area here, even this foam's kind of firm, and it's tough because there's not much under here. Like right here is probably a 1/2 inch of foam, if that. So I want to cut this out and put a softer foam. If you put a softer foam, you have a better chance of it bottoming out, but you really don't want any pressure in your tailbone area. We're going to do a tailbone relief here. We're going to put a softer foam in here. Up here is slightly thicker, so I'm hoping it will work for him. We've done it in the past where we cut this out. Well, we've done it a lot, where we cut this all out, put the foam in. We've never had anybody complain or say they couldn't feel it. Everybody actually says they feel nothing, which is good, because then you don't have any pain. We got the gel here. Based off his seating position, he sits a little bit farther forward than up back here. So we're putting it here. I don't like gel really far up on your butt cheeks. It has a tendency to push you forward. So we're going to get it just here. I might move it forward slightly. And then this way it's encompassing his butt. We moved it out because the seat pan itself kind of curves up there. So there's actually a hard piece of plastic, so he could avoid that. From here, we're actually going to skim it with some real foam and put that on there next. What am I doing now? I don't know. I just saw this on YouTube, so I'm kind of copying the person I saw. Actually, what we're doing is we're putting a sculpting foam. Because we have so many different layers of foam, we have a super soft foam here. We have our gel all down here now. We want to level it out before I put our comfort foam on there. Also, I like this because it creates a barrier between the gel and your material. A lot of people try to put their seat covers on directly onto the gel, and what ends up happening is it won't stick well. It'll fall off, and then you get bubbles. On a seat like this, a lot of times you don't really notice it because you're pulling it down. It's kind of a flat-ish seat. I mean, it has a curve, but it's nothing going in all different directions. Seats where you actually come up and go down and do different stuff, sometimes you can't pull it good. And then if you have direct gel there, you'll actually see the edge of the gel sometimes move through. So this is giving us our little barrier. It is a firmer foam, but by the time we get done, it's going to be probably about a 1/16 of an inch in spots. And it kind of acts to me like a snowshoe, where it locks everything in and it doesn't move. And it's kind of like a nice little extra. And then from there, we're going to put our next foam on. Although, before I jump away, so one thing that kills you is on the bottom of these seats, they actually put a bump. And I should have showed you while this foam was off. I don't know why they think putting the ribs, I mean, we know why they put the ribs in there. That's for structure, to make the seat a little stiffer, because they're using plastic. This plastic is thick enough, it's firm enough, that if you did it smooth right there, you'll never have a problem. But for some reason, they always put ribs right under your butt. They also do it where the foam is the thinnest, which is crazy. These little guys here, if you shave the seat down like we did, about maybe that much in that area, those things will actually poke you on the inside of your legs. Technically, they probably can. They put a firmer foam, I think, to avoid that. We're going to completely avoid that and do it right. From here, we already went through and foamed the seat. You put gel in it, all the comfort stuff. You can see we actually layered it with different layers. And what's cool is when you actually touch it now, the seat is totally different. Like, it has the nice gel. It's a little bit firmer feel. And then when you get back here, there's zip, 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 nothing. We have a really soft foam underneath here, so there's zero pressure on your tailbone. We've been having really good luck with it. And it's funny because it's something that you see on motorcycle seats. You used to see on motorcycle seats like in the 80s, and then for some reason they stopped. A lot of the seats that we redo actually have huge tailbone relief cutouts, and then they just went away. I don't know why, because they actually make a big difference for people who actually ride their bike and put a lot of miles on. So what we did on this seat, to recap, is narrowed it lowered it a little bit, re-dished it, so he's sitting in a better position. We couldn't go farther back like we wanted to because the seat pan is right there, and he'll be sitting on a seat pan, and you don't want to do that. We added gel to it, and we added, like I said, the tailbone relief. So it's a softer piece of foam down here, so there's no pressure on your tailbone. So now I'm gonna layer it in a 1/4 inch sew foam, and this is a softer sew foam. I just want to give it a little bit of a cush because a lot of people don't realize that the orthopedic gel is a firm gel. If it was soft, you just squish down and it wouldn't do its job. By being firmer, your butt will transform into it, and then it absorbs all the road vibrations. So as your bike's jiggling around and bouncing around, your butt isn't. If you ride for 10, 15, 20 minutes, this won't help you. If you ride for 45 minutes or an hour or more, that's when it starts to really work. 2, 3 hours and up is really noticeable for me. I've really noticed a big difference in that. On to the next step. Here we are. We have the seat foamed up, ready to go, nice and uniform, and we are going to start patterning it out. What we're going to do here is, as you've seen, people who watch our videos, you always start from the center and work your way out. So we're going to do that there, and double check their center line just for hee hee ha ha. Right on the money. Right on the money, Sonny. This is going to be a fairly straightforward seat cover because what we're going to do is we're doing a single diamond stitch on it. We're going to use this template, which people see me use a lot. This is from leatherseats.com. This is their 1 3/4 by 3 inch diamond. It's one of my favorites. It's perfect. It looks like a diamond. A lot of times people make these and they look like squares. So if you turn the diamond sideways, it just looks like squares. This one has a really nice look. So I want Craig's seat to look good. So we are using this on there. But first, we have to figure out what we're going to do for a pattern on it and what we're going to sew and all that jazz. So we're going to have to follow here, because this is kind of like seam where we have to fold these two together, or we have to sew these two together. It's when it's curved like this, or you have a sharp line, you have to put a seam there. We're putting our seam here. I am running up here, and people who know me for 20 years, you call me a hypocrite now, because for years I always try to avoid putting any stitch here. We'd always dodge this down here. The reason being is people who ride their bikes a lot of times your legs wear on that stitch, or that, the butt seam there a lot, and then it could actually prematurely fail your stitching or actually wear through in those spots. Back in the day, a lot of the materials weren't as good as some of the marine materials are now, so we had issues with that. Oh, I shouldn't say that, because some of the stuff was better. It's like a yin and a yang. Some stuff was better then and some stuff's better now, but for a million double rubs, you're going to get a lot of rubbing on the side of this before it starts to wear through. Plus, you'll notice I drop it down here so it's below the seam, and then when I pull it, it's going to be down a little bit, so it's on the flap. And your leg, because we shaved this off now, is going to kind of roll off the top here and shouldn't really be touching there, so it won't be a big deal. Like some of the seats that have like the welting or the piping, people call it, coming around here, that big ball, those wear a lot. But this is just going to be a single stop stitch, and it'll be better looking and easier for our diamonds. Sometimes if you drop this down and you have a diamond seat and you pull this around, it kind of looks wanky. It looks like overstretched and strange. This way I'll just have a nice top piece of diamond that looks good. And then we're going to mark our front here. It's the same, right? So this is what we're going to be doing on here. I should have taped it off first and then just done it one shot, but we're going to tape it now and use tape as our pattern. When you're putting your tape on, if you go over a seam and it wrinkles like that, that means that's an area that should be sewn. So you just get rid of it because you don't want to. If you have a pucker in your tape, when you go to transfer that to your vinyl, it's going to want to pucker there as well. You don't want to get in the habit of hoping that everything stretches out, because sometimes it's not going to, and then you're going to have a very wrinkly seat. So I just jumped ahead, did the back seat, taped them both off. So both seats are taped. Now all we have to do is mark them and cut them. We're going to put some alignment hashes, front, back, left, left. Just kind of label everything. I didn't put the top on here, so this one we're going to put a top on. And then go there, so this is going to be left, front, back, rear seat. Okay, and I already marked the bottom here, we know. What's nice about the scrambler seats, a lot of the Triumph seats, is that if you get your pattern right to the edge of it, you could just put a little flap on it and you staple it, and you don't have to go crazy and pattern the whole bottom of the seat like we do with a lot of the Harley seats. So we got these done. Now we can take our razor blade and we want to cut through the tape, but we don't really want to cut into the foam because we don't want to put big grooves in it. So I just have I choked it up. I'm using a razor blade. If you don't feel comfortable using a razor blade, don't, because you don't want to hurt yourself. And if you're that scared of your abilities to work with sharp objects, avoid them. So here we go. Got this one off here. Just want to cut it right in the center. So now we have our first piece off. We peel this guy up here. Here's our top piece. Now I marked the front and back. And what's tricky about a lot of motorcycle seats is even when you lay everything out flat, it still curls up because it's going around a lot of different angles. So I know I need my center line straight, so I made a straight center line. Now we're just going to get rid of this. Bada boom. The reason I like the tape for patterning is, one, it's sticky. So as you do things, you could say, I'm going to put this on my way over here, put this piece here. Then we're going to do the same thing here. I'm going to peel this off. Usually, when I do a seat covers, I actually leave the sides really long, test fit it, trim it, and then make the bottom. But on these ones, I really don't have to because they're so precise. Patterning is complete, so what I am going to do is grab, bada boom, bada bing, the pieces that we are going to put diamond stitches on. And what we want to do is we want to make these pieces oversized, because when we put our sew foam on the bottom, we stitch through it, the patterns are going to shrink a little bit. We're using 1/4 inch sew foam because I like the way it looks. It looks more professional. It's a little more crisper. And 1/2 inch sew foam, you get a bigger pleat, and a lot of people like that. But because we put 1/4 inch foam on here, and we're going to put another 1/4 inch foam, I don't want to have too much of a buildup. So here we go. What we're going to do is find a space pen. And don't forget, if you see what we do and you want to do it, we have at atomicautowworks.com, not Atomic Cycle Works, but if you go to atomicautowworks.com, we have a copycat link, and on that link you could actually click on some of the stuff that we use and purchase it. And it's not purchasing it from us. We were going to do that. We decided not to do that because we don't have the time to do that, and we are not better than the suppliers that are already out there. It's not going to happen. But you go to our website, you click on it, you purchase it, and you help us out. You support the channel, and we appreciate that. And we have everything from space pens to all this other stuff. Certain things we don't. So like this is from leatherseats.com. We don't have any link to that, but you'll hear us say it because they gave us a bunch of stuff for one of our videos we did, and we're very appreciative of it. So we like to give them a shout out because you shout out good companies. Back to here. Now, so we know that our piece is going to be this big mirrored. So we want to make sure that we do this oversized. So what I am going to do is take this. See how good that sticks? Sticks a little too good. Center to center. That's our center point. We're going to go there. We're giving ourselves plenty of room, right? So now I could just take and cut right up here. I'm going to go a little bit farther. So now you can see when we do this, we did it like 1.5 inches, 2 inches, 3 inches bigger all the way around. So now when it shrinks, we could actually put our pattern on there and it'll show you. So what I'm going to do is take our center line here, mark our center line right down the center, and then you're going to take this great little pattern here. And the reason why I say it's great is because I used to, well, I still do, I like to make my diamonds proportionate to the seats that we're doing. So I always change the sizes, but I found this pattern here, I love it. It works great. It has the diamond shape I like, and they have these really cool things where you have these little holes. I don't know if you can see those things. So when you're looking at this thing, it has little holes. You just align those holes up on your center line, and bada boom. So everything's lined up good. So now we just go through and just fill in the blanks. I find that just taking one line, doing the whole line, I actually should have started at the beginning and worked my way through because it's easy to miss a row. So now I went to here. So now I can just go through or mark all these. And then I'm going to repeat onto the same thing with the back seat. Okay. Now we trace it out. You can see this is what it looks like. We have all the lines on there. So you could go through and take a stray edge if you want and connect all the dots if you feel that you can't sew straight across there. I know for a fact I can. I've done it a few thousand times. What we're gonna end up doing is well, we're gonna keep patterning for a second, but then we're gonna put this on the sew foam, and what we'll do is show you how much it shrinks and how much it doesn't shrink. It doesn't shrink that much using 1/4 inch sew foam, and it's amazing how if we did a 1/2 inch sew foam underneath this, and sew foam is this material here, it's just a foam, and it has a scrim backing on it, so when you sew through it, one side has a material on it, the other side doesn't. You put the material on the bottom, the foam touches the backside of the vinyl. When you stitch through, it grabs onto that material and pulls tight, locks the threads in, and gives you a nice defined like puffiness. So with the 1/4 inch, it doesn't move that much. 1/2 inch is 1/4 inch thicker, so it actually what happens when you stitch, it crimps everything together, and it's amazing how much it actually does shrink. So we'll go through and try that. Right now, we are going to pattern a few pieces. We'll start off with the back seat because the back seat's the easiest. Okay, so this is the piece that wraps around the back of the bat, right? This comes around here, matches up in the center. So there's 2 ways you could do this, many ways you could do this, but if you wanted to, you could seam it in the middle, put a nice French seam or something in there if you're worried about not having enough material. If you don't want it, what you have to do is put it down and then flip it over and get a mirror image of it, which is easy, but not so easy. So what we're gonna do is, we should be able to make it, we'll make it there. So what I'm gonna do is lay this down, right? Bada boom, I'm gonna trace it out. We have a seam allowance of 3/8 of an inch. So we wanna make sure we take our pattern and then make sure that our seam allowance, which is the cut piece of our pattern to where we're going to cut the material, that has to be 3/8 of an inch because we're going to stitch basically right where we cut, which we have a lot of videos showing that. It's pretty, if you do sewing, it's pretty simple, pretty common. Bada boom, here's the center, here's the center. What I am going to do is, I know this is where I want this roughly, so this has to be cut there, 3/8 of an inch, right? So I'm actually going to do a little mark where I know that I roughly want this, but I am going to leave this one a little bit long. Because I'd rather put this seat cover on the bike to test fit it and have it too long and trim it than have it too short and then have to redo it. So now what we're going to do is I put all our little hash marks in there for alignment, and we're going to come through and we could cut this. So I wish I had more personality. You ever see, if anybody sees that guy Stale Cracker? I don't know why I love watching him cook his Cajun food and all the different stuff, and he has so much energy and excitement, and I don't have that. We need our notcher, the little notching tool, which again is available on Atomic Auto Works. We might at some point, if we have time, put some of the stuff, links to it on Cycle Works as well, but just know that our Atomic Auto Works is more of our do-it-yourself channel. You can see I screwed up. I wanted this to kind of lay like this, but if you do that, you're going to waste everything. So we don't want to waste it. So we want to make sure that that's our center line, and now we're going to pattern off this. Oop. And this gives you a symmetrical piece. Now you're supposed to, before you do the seat, before you make the seat cover, look at the seat to make sure it is symmetrical, which I did. It was close. I actually shaved it down a little bit because the factory one on the back seat, or front seat, back of the front seat wasn't as symmetrical as it should have been. And you can see the reason we use the space pens as much as we can on the vinyls and leather is the size of the line. So this line is only maybe a 1/16 of an inch thick. So if you mess up, you're only messing up a 32nd of an inch usually. Whereas if you use a piece of chalk, you can mess up to a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch. So now I'm just going to use this little notching tool, and I'm putting notches in where we marked for our alignment points, and this just aligns each piece of material together. So now I could fold this in half. So now when we go to put this seat together, sew it, we could put it right exactly where it needs to go to the other piece, because this piece is going to get sewn to this top piece. So you want these alignment lines to match up on the top piece and the side, which I've shown you on many, many videos. If you haven't seen those videos, go watch them. Boom. So we got that one piece made for the back there, top piece, and we only have a front piece to make here. So we're going to do the front piece here. Bada boom, will that make it? Nope, but we'll do it sideways here. So this piece we're making, this little piece that goes underneath here. When I watch these videos, I see like people, when you have people that edit for you and film for you, I think it allows you to be a little bit more creative because you're not thinking the whole time. Don't talk so much because you're going to have to edit all this stuff. So usually you measure 3/8 of an inch, you use a ruler. Sometimes I'll take I take the I usually have a piece of the razor blades. When they take our razor blades off, they have this little cardboard. Actually, there's a piece right there. They have this little cardboard. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll just take a 3/8, mark it on there. So you can mark your 3/8. Then you have like a little mark, and you can just run it around your piece when you're doing it to make sure you use it. So I just use it as a gauge to make sure it's the same. I think some people probably watch these videos and say, wow, this is way easier than I thought. And other people are probably like, there's a lot more involved than I thought to do a motorcycle seat. It's funny, we always get the weirdest comments too. I had a guy, which it took me a second, he commented something about what's that alien contraption in the back in a certain video. And I was like, what is this guy talking about? It turns out he saw our steamer tool that we use for steaming leather, and he didn't know what it was. It looked weird to him, which we'll have to show on one of the videos, how to steam stuff. I never really thought about using a steamer on a video, although maybe I did before, who knows. Okay, so bada boom, that goes there to there. I don't know why that has a point. I might have messed up. Nope, that's why it has a point. It's supposed to be rounded. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. So this should have been rounded, and I'll show you how I messed up there. Well, how I messed up there, to be honest with you. So for some reason I cut it to a point and it's supposed to be rounded, so I'm just gonna round it, put our center line back in it. Now this one's done. So this one, seat's pretty much all done, waiting on diamonds. And the front seat, we are going to pattern now. Same thing with the front seat. This piece goes all the way around here. So if you wanted the front seam it or single top stitch it, you can. But I like this one stitch. So this kind of shows you, like, sometimes we'll give people options when they're on a budget. There's things we could do to save less material, cost a little less. And that'd be putting the seam in there. And some people don't care. Not that much money, not that much moolah. Front, back, so we need to go here. So if I did here, right, and then we went here, might work. So if we did here, let's try this. So I know if we fold it, that'll work. So I'm gonna just do this. And when these big pieces, you just don't wanna mess up. You know, when you put these on, sometimes you flip them and they're not gonna work, and then you run out of material and you gotta be careful. So we don't really want that. So on the front here, which you probably can't see, I'm gonna put our 3/8 seam allowance, but I'm gonna actually do it an inch bigger too. And we're gonna test fit it before we cut that piece, because this stuff moves a lot. It grows, it shrinks. One thing about upholstery is it's very challenging, is that the material always does different things than you think. You could make the best pattern in the world sometimes and put it together and it just doesn't jive. And sometimes you make a sloppy pattern and it does jive. So as I'm doing this, I'm doing a sloppy pattern. It looks like a sloppy pattern, right? But I'm just freehanding the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. But it's not really freehanding. We've done this tens of thousands of times, I'm sure, over the years. So this is the rough thing. We're gonna bring this down a little bit because we wanna make it bigger. Oh, make it bigger so that we could trim it off where we need it. And bada boom, everything's on there. Take that off. This goes over here. Let's trim her up. Trim it up, buttercup. So this outside cut doesn't matter because we're going to cut this all off afterwards. Okay, that's to the 3/8 to the window. I'm going to put our center line here, center line here. With these things, you have to be careful because if you have a 3/8 inch seam allowance and this could go in a 1/2 inch, you'll end up cutting a hole in it. When you stitch it together, there will be a hole in the opposite side that you see, and you don't want that. So let's see how off we were. Off, but we made it. Just made it. I'll show you how just made it. We made it. That's what's funny is when I had it over here. Oh, do you know what it is? Because I added the extra meat on it that we're going to trim off. By doing that, it brought it right to the edge. There was a cut. Close call, but we did it. We're good. We'll move on. That's all getting cut off anyways. It is now diamond time. So I'm going to cut some sew foam. I'll do this a little bit bigger. I'm actually kind of excited. I can't wait for Craig to try his seat out. As much as I want it to be really comfortable for him, I kind of want to just see his video, how it comes out. I enjoy watching his videos, and it's kind of cool to work with, work on someone's vehicle, and like their videos they do. But it is nerve-wracking too, because you don't want to give him a bad seat. Although maybe if it comes out horrible and he's like, this is the worst seat I've ever sat in. Everything he said was bullshit. Don't believe a word he said. We might get better reviews on our videos. People be like, I gotta see what the heck they're doing. I'm gonna have to go downstairs and glue these. I don't have a glue gun up here right now. You have a choice sometimes. You could glue your material to your sew foam or not to glue. If you glue it and have a problem, you can't adjust it or move it. If you glue it and you have to bend it or move it, you could actually, when it's hot out, it could unglue and then re-stick itself. But I know the way that this seat is set up, it can't. It doesn't move. It's not the side of the seat, it's the top of the seat. I also know that because we have a slight curve or a curve going out the back of the seat, if you don't glue it, a lot of times you'll pull this up and you'll get like bumps through the actual in the middle of each diamond, which drives me nuts and I hate it. So I'm going to go through and glue this, a light glue enough to hold it down, but not too heavy. Let's pretend I haven't already bored you to death with too much information about a motorcycle seat. I want to talk about thread, right? So I'm glad that Craig chose the thread that he wants and the design that he wants, because I personally love the red against the black, red stitch on a black seat. I have it on one of my bikes. I like the single stitch. The reason I like the single stitch is it's a little bit of thread history and sewing history. So a lot of younger people who start off in this business now, you know, there's a lot of options for thread. You can just buy whatever thickness you want for whatever color and all this different stuff. Well, we didn't have that option. Back in the day, the thread was very thin and small. If we wanted big thread, we usually get hand thread for like sewing by hand, and we'd have to finagle that through our machine. Sometimes we'd actually take regular thread and double it up and put 2 or 3 through the machine and run it to get that same look. So we really had to be creative. The reason we started doing a lot of double stitching is because that thin thread did not look good. You imagine this thread cut in half, it's not as vibrant and it's not as big and in your face. So we would do double stitching with that to kind of give you more red and a more pop. Well, now we have these way more vibrant colors and we have thicker threads. So you could get them, you know, very thick now, right? You get them from regular small thin thread all the way up to hand thread, which is very thick. When we started doing double stitch, like double diamonds with the heavy stitch, I don't like it. To me, it's just too much. It's just a lot of red and it's a lot of distraction. So I personally love this here and I'm glad we're doing it for him. And I'm trying to see something ain't right here. You gotta always watch what you're doing. Watch what you're doing, because I'm about to ruin the image and the style that you're used to. Right? That's all good. In the hood, that's up there. Tension on the bobbin. So you gotta pay attention. You gotta pay attention. See if that fixed it. I just noticed the bobbin thread didn't look like I wanted to look. And it's always a problem with these machines is sometimes the bobbin actually loosens up in the spool. Yeah, that's what we need. That's what we need. Okay, we're good to go. No, it's not what we need, is it? What are we doing here? Stop the press. And everything looks good. Oh, do you know what? I forgot. We use a thinner thread. Before, we would use a thinner thread, so I kind of put a little more tension on it, on the top thread, which kind of makes the bobbin thread pull up a little bit. Very subtle, but you gotta kind of watch those things. It's like when you're painting a car, if you get bad paint, it's not gonna look good. So you can see by using those templates though, how much faster it helps out with these diamonds. But when you have to actually plot them out from scratch, it always takes a minute. I went ahead and wound a bunch of bobbin spools. So I know we're gonna be going through a ton of them. Diamonds eat up so much bobbin thread. The diamonds are sewn up, so let's take a look and see if it shrank. I don't think it did, just because this is 1/4 inch sew foam, as I repeated many times. So when we put it here, the center, it did shrink more than I thought, but not that much. So now what we gotta do is just take our pattern, center it, and we're gonna add our 3/8 of an inch around here, put our alignment marks in here. And then what's tough is you can't really fold this over to make it symmetrical like we normally do, because when they're glued together and they're sewn together, when you fold it, sometimes you can put a crease in there and you really don't want that. So what we're gonna do is actually measure everything. So I find that measuring everything sometimes really helps you out. No, it always helps you out. So from our center point, we're gonna start measuring 2, 3, 4.5. And always look at it to see where it crosses over. So you can see here, this crosses over here. I want to make sure that crosses over at the same exact spot. And make sure your diamonds are good and all that. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4.25. 1, 2, 3, 4 and a quarter. And so we're going to look and say from that point to there is just under 1, and from that point to there is, we'll move over a 64th. So I'm going to go through and do that to both of these, and then we're going to start sewing them together. The diamonds are trimmed. So now we have our diamonds, cut the pattern. Showed you how to do that, right? We have our rear piece here, ready to sew on. I did a green stitch, because sometimes when you're cutting stuff off, a contrasting stitch will let you see exactly where you need to cut so you don't accidentally cut it. Because on diamonds, sometimes if I did a red stitch, as you come around, you might think the diamond stitch is actually where you're cutting and you cut through it, and we want to avoid that. So this is getting these pieces fitted, and this one is getting these. And I think I'm actually going to just sew them together, and then I'll show you how I do the bottom of the seat versus taking too long to show you all this other stuff. Now, if you remember when we were back to patterning these things, I left our tape patterns about 3/4 to an inch longer than where it looked like they should be. Now that we put the seat cover on and pinned it on there, you want to pull it kind of tight where it's going to be, and you can look and you say, okay, we're actually pretty close to where we were at. So there's a high possibility that if we just went with our line, it could work. The reason I don't do that is if we use 1/2 inch sew foam, 1/4 inch sew foam, no sew foam, 3/4 inch sew foam, if we're using double diamond, single diamond, everything you do when you put the seat together changes the pattern. A 1/2 inch of sew foam is going to lift the seat up, so then you have to kind of factor that in, but you don't want to add that because if you do a ton of stitching, it's going to flatten it out. So I like to get it really close, and on these seats, I like to make sure that our seam is just on the inside of the edge here. So what I'll do is I'm going to go around and we'll use this Sharpie to show you. We're pulling it up. I always want to make sure that our centers didn't move, that use our peripheral vision to make sure that these are there. You can measure it to make sure the seam is correct. And then we're just going to go up and bring this right to where the plastic would be. And we want to make our mark. And we're going to go all the way around and do this. And then on this seat, I already went through and trimmed it. I did the same thing and trimmed it. So you can see when you pull it up, it goes right to there. So technically, you're supposed to go to that mark and then add a 3/8 seam allowance. A trick that I have found, because I always like my seats to be a little bit tighter, but not too tight, is I just get rid of the seam allowance, and then that always gives me enough juice to pull it in where it's tight, so you don't have to worry about, like, if you don't pull the seats tight enough, what ends up happening is they can look great today, but in 6 months from now, if they're riding on the bike and the sun beating on it and everything, and the different weather change, it'll actually loosen up, and then you'll have a wrinkly seat. So I want to make sure that 10 years from now, the seat still looks nice. I just went ahead and made the bottom band that we're going to actually staple through. I just basically made a piece that was 1 3/4 inches long, so I needed a 3/8 savage. I wanted 3/4 of an inch to the end of my staples, and then I wanted another 1/2 inch to wrap around to sew. And I put a red top stitch at the bottom of the seat. It looks all right as well. The factory, a lot of times, they'll use a neoprene material, and the reason I'm using the matching material is when you make this from production, you make the original pieces, you make molds, you make fixtures, you make everything so that everything comes out exactly the same every time. So they know that this line is exactly where it's at. And then they put that neoprene in, and the neoprene always is behind here and goes down. Well, when you're doing a custom seat, we're using different materials. There's so many variables. We have, if you have a little wrinkle, you can't leave it there, so you might have to stretch it. So if we have to stretch it and pull it farther, then we might have to have that little line farther down. Vice versa, if we had something else where we had to actually have it looser, there's a possibility that it's going to be up a little higher. And so what I like to do is use this, because you can't, in a custom aspect, take every seat apart and redo it every time you build a custom one. So you try to narrow your variables for perfection without having to go through all that extra steps. So I use this, so this way it always looks good. If it's a 1/16 or an 1/8 inch off, no one's going to ever know, because it's just impossible to know. So let's go have the fun part and put this together. All right, guys, check this out. So little brief off of the scrambler seat. So I did this seat 27 years ago, and we're going to be redoing it for a customer. And I just think it's kind of cool to show. So this person had to have taken care of this bike, because this is a real leather seat. And normally they dry, they crack, they shrink, something happens on it. And it's kind of funny to see your old work. I was actually, even though it sucks, it's not as bad as I thought it was, because you always look back and like, I'd love to see my work that long ago to see how bad it was. And I could see like some of the stitching variations. And One of the things I used to do a lot back in the day was I would keep my top stitch really far away from the butt seam, because if you wiggled a little bit, it's not as noticeable that if you keep it close. And it's just one of those things where after you take time and you get better with the machine, and you can just start doing it a lot closer and be confident that you're not going to have any issues. But it's just kind of funny to see that. And this was actually, Danny Gray was a seat builder. I don't know if he still is. And out on the West Coast, and he did some TV shows, and he got really popular on like one of the biker build-offs or something like that. And everybody used to see his seats, and when he used the welt cord, not pre and bust welt cord, just a make your own welt cord. I think it's called shock cord or something, whatever. Anyways, you put that in between the materials and you stitch both sides, and it gives these bumps. And it was so popular, and we did like hundreds of these things back in the day. But I wanted to show you this, and this is going to be the seat that we're redoing. So if you remember to come back and see our next videos and subscribe to the channel, we're going to take it apart and show you exactly what was underneath here, what we did that many years ago, so you could kind of see, and then show you what he's doing now, which is going to be kind of wild. And this is a big thing here, where we used to do map pockets. I don't remember riveting them on like this, but we used to put these pockets under there so people could put their registration and insurance card and stuff and keep it with it. And this is actually funny, because this is one of my original tags. BarrettDesigns.net was our website, and we lost that about 20 years ago, 15 years ago. Stay tuned to watch this, and we're back on the scrambler seat now. So I am going to go and put the back seat on first, do the easiest one first, see how that one goes, and then we're going to move to the front seat. And we are going to use stainless staples. His bike gets wet. We don't always use stainless staples on motorcycles unless people ask. You think it's staple to staple, it's not. A regular box of staples, I forgot what they even cost now, but they're comparably, a regular small box of staples might be 15 bucks. These things are probably like 70 bucks. So it's a huge difference in staples. So let me get this close first. And just like that, you have Craig's seat all set for him. He's coming down tomorrow to pick these things up. And you can see here what we did is went through the bottom. We made that edge that goes around there. I don't really like that right there. That was it, just my finger was in it. One thing you got to really worry about when you put these seats around is you have your salvage, which is your seam allowance. You want to make sure that it all flaps onto one side, because if it comes and rides up here, your thing will get all lumpy and bumpy and look like heck. We definitely don't want that, but that is problem solved. So here he goes. Hopefully you guys like it. More importantly, hopefully Craig likes it. Remember, if you want to see his reaction and see him riding this and his actual review of it, make sure to check out Off the Slab on YouTube, and offtheslab.com is his website. And we're all going to pray that he really likes it, because this would be really embarrassing if it didn't work out for him. Thanks. Please remember, like, share, subscribe, follow, ring the bell. Thanks for watching.